Darwin began his life not on land, but in the quiet stillness of water. A small orange fish with wide, curious eyes. The bowl he called home sat on the edge of the Watterson living room, a round glass world containing everything he had ever known. Light refracted through the water, dancing across the walls and ceiling in gentle patterns that shifted slowly as if breathing with the rhythm of the house. At first, his days passed in calm circles, swimming around and around, watching the shadows of furniture, the slow movements of Nicole, Richard, Gumball, and Aeneas as they went about their mornings and evenings. Though he had no words, he sensed everything around him, feeling warmth when someone approached, curiosity when a hand hovered near the glass, and a small thrill when Gumball's blue face appeared pressed against the surface, bending and stretching like a funhouse reflection. He learned to notice small things first. The patterns of light on the floor, the way water moved when the bowl was touched, the little sounds of the room, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft clink of utensils in the kitchen, the distant voice of Nicole reminding someone to pick up their things. These were his earliest lessons about the world outside the water, the world that would one day become his home. Even in these quiet, peaceful beginnings, there was a spark in Darwin's nature, a gentle curiosity that made him linger over details others might overlook. He watched Gumball intently, noticing the boy's laughter, his energetic gestures, and the way he sometimes spoke directly to the bowl as if Darwin could respond. Though he could not speak yet, he understood the tone of affection and mischief in the boy's voice. It made the water feel warmer, his little body more alert, more eager. Days passed in cycles, and slowly, something extraordinary happened. One morning, the water seemed to ripple with a different kind of energy. Darwin felt his fins quiver and stretch, and before he understood what was happening, he found himself lifted out of the water, standing on legs that wobbled beneath him. The sensation was both terrifying and exhilarating. The world was suddenly taller, sharper, brighter. He blinked, adjusting to air in his gills, to gravity pressing down on him. Gumball gasped, jumping back in awe. Nicole watched in astonishment, unsure what to make of the sudden transformation of the little fish she had known so well. Richard cheered and clapped his hands. Anais furrowed her brow, trying to calculate exactly how Darwin had developed legs and the ability to walk. In that moment, the living room was no longer just a space. It became the threshold of an entirely new life. Learning to walk took patience and persistence. Darwin wobbled across the floor, occasionally tripping over rugs or bumping gently into furniture, and each time he fell, he would look up, a mixture of surprise and determination in his eyes. Gumball ran beside him, offering encouragement, and sometimes comic distraction, urging Darwin forward with energetic leaps and clumsy advice. Slowly, the two of them found a rhythm. Darwin's tiny feet learned to find purchase on the smooth floor, and his arms began to help him balance. Each small success was a triumph, celebrated quietly with smiles, soft laughter, and the occasional high five. It was in these early steps that Darwin discovered the joy of progress, the thrill of mastering something entirely new, and the warm, unshakable sense of belonging. As Darwin integrated into the family, daily routines became both comfort and adventure. Breakfast was shared, with Darwin trying to imitate Nicole's careful pouring of cereal and Richard's chaotic enthusiasm. He learned that spoons were tools to be wielded gently, that cups could spill, and that laughter often followed mistakes. He tried to mimic Aeneas's precise movements, but often ended in humorous disaster, her soft sighs tempered by an unspoken pride in her brother's efforts. Walking through the house, Darwin began to notice the unique qualities of each room, the way light fell in the kitchen in the morning, the shadows that stretched across the hallway in the evening, the softness of his own bed compared to the familiar buoyancy of water. Each observation added layers to his understanding of the world, and with each day, he grew a little taller, a little stronger, a little more confident. School was the next frontier. Elmore Junior High was a bustling world of sounds, smells, colors, and movements that overwhelmed Darwin at first. He walked beside Gumball, clutching a small backpack that felt heavy and strange, and he marveled at the architecture, the halls filled with lockers, the chatter of hundreds of students. The first day was a mixture of anxiety and excitement. Darwin watched others, learning gestures, voices, social cues. He was shy, yes, but there was a quiet determination in him, a resolve to understand, to connect, to belong. Gumball's energy often carried him forward, pulling Darwin to the fray. But Darwin's natural empathy allowed him to notice the classmates others ignored, to see sadness where others saw nothing, to offer a comforting word or gesture that bridged gaps instantly. Over time, Darwin began to find his own rhythm in the school, making friends not through loud antics, but through warmth, kindness, and the subtle humor he developed alongside Gumball. Adventures became a daily feature of Darwin's life. They began small, helping Gumball retrieve a lost homework assignment, navigating the chaos of a school cafeteria, exploring a nearby park. Each adventure was framed with observation, reflection, and humor. Darwin learned quickly, noticing dangers, identifying opportunities, and making connections others overlooked. He developed an intuition for people, understanding their moods and needs, often mediating conflicts before they escalated. In these moments, the outline emphasizes his gentle nature, how he balances Gumball's impulsiveness with calm reasoning, and how he approaches challenges with curiosity and empathy rather than aggression or fear. Even mistakes are treated with kindness, reflecting a world where learning is valued above perfection. Darwin's emotional growth is a central theme in this part of the outline. He experiences disappointment when efforts fail, frustration when Gumball's plans go awry, sadness when he feels misunderstood. Yet each emotion is explored slowly, carefully, allowing the listener to feel the depth of Darwin's experiences without rush or tension. He discovers resilience, learning to bounce back, to apologize when necessary, to forgive when others err, and to find joy in simple successes. Quiet moments punctuate these adventures, watching the sunset from a school rooftop, hearing the distant sound of a train, feeling the warmth of a classroom sunbeam, noticing the delicate beauty of a fallen leaf. Each detail is described in a calm, reflective tone, allowing the mind to drift alongside Darwin's gentle, attentive consciousness. The outline also touches on surreal adventures, the kind that belong to dreams or imaginative play. Darwin and Gumball explore worlds shaped by whimsy, streets of candy, floating islands, forests of clouds, glowing rivers. In each, Darwin's curiosity and sensitivity guide the experience. He notices colors, textures, and sounds others might miss. He observes patterns, helps creatures in need, and finds creative solutions to problems. These adventures serve dual purposes, entertaining gently while soothing, building a sense of wonder without overstimulation. The narrative is slow, rhythmic, descriptive, and intentionally peaceful. Friendships, family bonds, and emotional awareness are explored in rich detail. Darwin's relationship with Nicole emphasizes strength and care, showing how guidance can coexist with freedom. His interactions with Richard highlight the joy of simplicity and playfulness. With Aeneas, Darwin learns patience, understanding, and the value of observation. And with Gumball, the narrative focuses on trust, loyalty, and shared imagination. The outline lingers on everyday interactions as much as adventures, sharing breakfast, walking home from school, playing simple games, laughing at minor mishaps, comforting one another after small disappointments. These moments are deliberate and slow, reinforcing a sense of calm continuity. The outline reaches a reflective moment. Darwin lying awake at night, looking at the ceiling, thinking about all he has experienced. He wonders about the world beyond Elmore, beyond the house, beyond even the classroom. And in a gentle, direct whisper, he wonders where the listener is watching from. Is it a bedroom with dim lights, a quiet living room, a soft chair near a window? Perhaps they are lying under blankets, readying themselves for sleep. This moment creates intimacy, connecting Darwin's story with the listener's present reality and slowing the narrative further, preparing for a gentle descent into rest. Darwin's first week at Elmore Junior High stretched before him like a new uncharted ocean. The hallways smelled of polished floors, paper, and faint cafeteria aromas. Every locker was a small, unfamiliar island. Every classroom a world of potential and subtle discovery. At first he felt tiny amid the towering lockers and bustling students. He noticed the way shoes scuffed the tile, how voices blended into an ever-present murmur, and the gentle, almost imperceptible patterns of movement among groups of friends. Gumball bounded ahead, waving at familiar faces, calling out jokes, while Darwin followed carefully, observing quietly. Though he could mimic laughter and speech, he found a quiet pleasure in noticing the unspoken things, a student fidgeting nervously, a teacher's soft sigh before a lesson, the rhythm of footsteps echoing down the hallway. He learned that the world was not just loud and chaotic. It was full of subtle details if one cared to notice them. In the first class, Darwin's seat was beside Aeneas's favorite spot in the library corner, a place he felt immediately safe and calm. He watched the chalk scrape softly across the board, the way sunlight from the windows traced golden paths across desks, the small flutters of paper as pages turned. When the teacher spoke, he listened intently, tilting his head slightly, noticing emphasis, pauses, and gestures. Words were a puzzle, and he delighted in fitting them together, in understanding what they meant, not just intellectually, but emotionally. By the end of the first day, Darwin had made two quiet observations that others had missed. The janitor's careful placement of chairs in perfect alignment, and a classmate silently offering a pencil to a friend in need. These small insights, though unnoticed by the bustling world, gave Darwin a quiet sense of connection and empathy that would become central to his identity. Recess was another kind of adventure, a vast expanse of grass, swings, and running children. Darwin ran alongside Gumball, trying to match his boundless energy, but he noticed everything else too. The gentle sway of the trees, the delicate shimmer of sunlight on leaves, the soft scrape of shoes on the pavement, and the occasional whisper of a breeze. He helped a younger student untangle a shoelace, offered his lunch to someone who forgot theirs, and even found a small hidden patch of clover in the playground corner. Each gesture was quiet, unnoticed by the louder world around him, yet deeply meaningful. Darwin began to understand that small acts of kindness created ripples, subtle waves that traveled further than he could see, shaping friendships and understanding in ways beyond his immediate perception. By the second week, Darwin's confidence grew steadily. He learned to raise his hand, to ask questions, to speak softly but clearly when needed. Gumball remained his energetic counterpart, often pulling him into impulsive pranks or imaginative misadventures. Yet Darwin began to assert himself gently. He suggested small, clever ideas, sometimes saving a project from chaos or offering an observation that made a group laugh or smile. Teachers began to notice his attentiveness, his kindness, and the steady, calm energy he brought to the classroom. Darwin learned gradually that influence did not always need the volume. Sometimes the softest voice carried the clearest message. Lunch became a quiet ritual, a moment for reflection. Darwin and Gumball often sat together, sometimes with other friends, sometimes alone. The cafeteria buzzed with chatter, the scrape of trays, the occasional laugh echoing like a bell. Darwin observed patterns, who sat with whom, who laughed at which joke, how different foods smelled and tasted. He noticed that some students were lonely, and he learned small ways to offer companionship. A nod, a smile, sharing a cookie, or simply listening. These quiet acts gave him a deep, unspoken satisfaction. He realized that friendship was not only shared adventures, but also the subtle comfort of being noticed, being understood, and offering attention without expectation. One afternoon, Darwin and Gumball discovered a forgotten hallway, dust motes floating in the beams of sunlight, streaming through high windows. The air smelled faintly of old books and polished wood. Curiosity led them forward, their footsteps echoing softly. Darwin noticed the small cracks in the walls, the gentle hum of the heating pipes, the distant creak of a door. Here, in a quiet corner of Elmore Junior High, they imagined a secret world, a place where only they existed. Darwin ran his fingers along the wooden railing, observing the smooth polish and tiny scratches left by years of hands. Gumball invented stories about hidden treasures and magical creatures, and Darwin, quietly supportive, offered thoughtful suggestions that made the fantasy richer, steadier, and more believable. These moments, suspended in stillness, reinforced the slow rhythm of his days, a balance between curiosity, observation, friendship, and imagination. Emotional growth became increasingly important in Darwin's life. He experienced frustration when Gumball's plans went awry, sadness when a classmate felt excluded, and anxiety when he misjudged a situation. Yet he also discovered resilience. He learned to breathe slowly, to reflect on feelings, to apologize when needed, and to forgive without resentment. One rainy afternoon, after a minor mishap in class, Darwin sat by the window watching droplets slide down the glass. He thought about what had happened, how it affected others, and how he could do better next time. The soft rhythm of the rain mirrored his thoughts, slowing his mind and soothing his emotions. He realized that mistakes were part of growth, that understanding and empathy mattered more than perfection, and that his gentle presence could influence the world positively, even in small, quiet ways. Darwin's imaginative adventures grew steadily, sometimes spilling from the quiet corners of school into the boundless landscapes of thought. He imagined traveling through clouds, floating on luminous rivers, conversing with the tiny creatures of Elmore's hidden forests. In these mental journeys, the narrative takes time to describe textures, colors, and sensations. The softness of clouds beneath his feet, the shimmer of moonlight on water, the warmth of a gentle breeze, the comforting hum of unseen voices. These sequences are intentionally slow, rhythmic, and calming, encouraging a meditative state for the listener. Each imagined world mirrors Darwin's emotional state, reinforcing safety, curiosity, and gentle wonder. Family life remained central. Even amid school and adventures, Darwin always returned to the Watterson home, where Nicole's careful attention, Richard's playful chaos, Anais's analytical guidance, and Gumball's boisterous companionship provided structure and comfort. Quiet evenings were filled with shared dinners, small conversations, and reflective moments. Darwin learned to appreciate the warmth of routine, the soft clatter of dishes, the gentle flicker of lights, the muted conversation that flowed naturally across the table. He noticed subtle cues, the way Nicole stirred her tea, the tilt of Richard's head when he listened carefully, the quiet smile on Aeneas's face when she observed the room's dynamics. These details, gentle and unhurried, taught Darwin about mindfulness, presence, and the quiet joy found in shared moments. As weeks passed, Darwin's confidence in social situations increased. He joined small school projects, contributed to group discussions, and helped organize games during breaks. Yet he never lost his careful, attentive nature. He continued to notice small injustices, to observe emotions others overlooked, to offer kindness where it was needed most. His empathy became a subtle strength, a steady force that balanced the chaotic energy of Gumball, the impulsiveness of peers, and the unpredictability of school life. Darwin's observations often led to small acts of harmony, redirecting a squabble, helping a classmate understand an assignment, or simply offering reassurance with a kind word or smile. One golden afternoon, Darwin and Gumball wandered near the school garden, noticing the play of sunlight across petals and leaves. They observed insects, the soft rustle of grass, and the gentle sway of flowers in the wind. Darwin reflected on the interconnectedness of life, how each small movement, each subtle interaction, contributed to a greater pattern, invisible but real. Gumball, in his energetic way, spun stories about heroic insects and talking flowers, and Darwin listened, gently adding details that made the world richer without overwhelming it. These moments blended observation, imagination, and quiet reflection, reinforcing the balance that defined Darwin's character. Active participation, tempered by awareness, excitement paired with empathy, curiosity guided by thoughtful attention. By the end of this period, Darwin's days had formed a comforting rhythm: observation, adventure, friendship, family, reflection. He learned that even in chaos there was calm to be found. Even in loudness there was meaning to be discovered. Even in mistakes there was growth. He drifted into nights with gentle thoughts, remembering the soft hum of the school halls, the laughter of friends, the warmth of home, and the quiet, shimmering promise of tomorrow's possibilities. And as he lay in bed, eyes closing softly, he pictured the listener lying somewhere in the world, wrapped in blankets, settled into a calm space, and he whispered softly and thought, "Where are you watching from tonight, friend?" He hoped the listener felt safe, calm, and ready to drift gently into sleep alongside him. The days stretched into weeks, and Darwin discovered that not all adventures required leaving the ground. Some were quieter, slower, hidden in corners of the familiar, unfolding like soft petals of a flower. He found joy in the soft hum of the library, where books lined the shelves like quiet sentinels. He ran his fingers along the spines, feeling their textures, imagining the worlds inside. He sometimes read silently, sometimes aloud in soft whispers, letting stories drift around him like warm blankets. Here he discovered patience and concentration, learning that knowledge, like water in his old bowl, could ripple gently, quietly expanding outward, unseen but real. Gumball would occasionally sit beside him, fidgeting, trying to jump into the story with loud enthusiasm, and Darwin would smile, gently guiding him back to the narrative, showing how imagination could be both active and peaceful, boisterous and calm. Some days, Darwin and Gumball explored the alleys and streets of Elmore, where ordinary buildings held extraordinary potential. The sunlight bouncing off windows made patterns on walls and sidewalks, small private worlds of light and shadow. Darwin noticed the tiny things others might miss. A crack in the pavement where a flower had sprouted, the way birds hopped in precise rhythms across telephone wires, the faint smell of bread from a distant bakery. Each detail became a story in itself. He imagined what it would be like to live as a bird, to soar above the streets, to feel wind against his face and the soft tilt of clouds beneath him. These gentle daydreams, shared with Gumball, or kept quietly in his mind, became moments of calm discovery, lessons in observation, and practice in imagination. School continued to be both a challenge and a comfort. Darwin learned to navigate not only lessons, but social landscapes. He noticed when someone was nervous before a presentation, when a group struggled to coordinate on a project, when a teacher's attention was distracted. He became adept at offering subtle guidance, a whispered suggestion, a quiet demonstration, a soft word of encouragement. Gumball often took center stage, earning attention through antics and bold declarations. But Darwin's quiet contributions wove through the world unnoticed, steady and meaningful. He realized that not all influence was loud. Some of it was invisible, like the gentle current of a stream beneath still water. Afternoons often led to spontaneous adventures. One day, Darwin and Gumball discovered a hidden path along the edge of the park behind their school. The air smelled faintly of damp earth and grass, and sunlight filtered through the leaves in warm, golden streaks. They wandered slowly, listening to the faint rustle of leaves, the distant sound of children playing, and the soft hum of traffic in the far distance. Darwin paused frequently, observing tiny insects at work, the delicate patterns of spider webs, the shimmer of dew on blades of grass. Gumball spun wild stories about the creatures they imagined living here. Tiny kingdoms, secret councils, heroic knights made of leaves. And Darwin added thoughtful touches that made the fantasy feel coherent, soothing, and magical. These walks became a ritual of quiet discovery, an exercise in patience, observation, and shared imagination, with the rhythm of steps and breath mirroring a slow, comforting heartbeat. Evenings returned Darwin to the Watterson home, where the warm light of the kitchen and living room welcomed him back like a familiar embrace. Nicole prepared dinner with her usual precision, Richard occasionally interrupting with enthusiastic commentary or accidental messes, and Anais sat with books spread around her, eyes flicking up occasionally to observe her family. Darwin found calm in the ordinary. The gentle clink of utensils, the smell of cooking, the soft hum of conversation. He observed the ways his family interacted, noting subtle gestures. The tilt of Nicole's hand when she stirred soup. Richard's slow nod of agreement when he understood something. Anais's faint smile of recognition when someone made a small, thoughtful observation. These tiny moments became exercises in attentiveness and empathy, reinforcing Darwin's gentle, reflective nature. One night, as moonlight spilled softly through the bedroom window, Darwin imagined traveling across vast oceans once more, recalling his origins as a fish. He pictured himself gliding through water, observing coral reefs, shimmering schools of fish, and the quiet dance of seaweed swaying with gentle currents. The memory of floating in his bowl mingled with the imagined expanses, creating a feeling of continuity and safety. Gumball, nearby, imagined himself riding dolphins, shouting triumphantly, and Darwin smiled, allowing their separate visions to coexist peacefully. These quiet moments of imagination reinforced a sense of calm, providing a bridge between active daytime adventures and reflective, sleep-inducing thoughts. Darwin also learned the subtle power of listening. During class, He would notice a student struggling silently with an assignment, a friend sitting alone on the playground, or a sibling feeling overlooked in family conversation. He learned that attention, when given softly and intentionally, could create connection. One afternoon, noticing a classmate with a torn backpack, Darwin quietly helped fix the strap with a small, careful knot. The gesture went unnoticed by most, but the gratitude in the classmate's eyes was enough. Darwin understood that impact did not need applause. Quiet, thoughtful actions often carried the greatest weight. Gumball sometimes got frustrated, wanting everything to be loud and immediate, but Darwin gently guided him to understand that influence could be subtle, persistent, and lasting. Weeks turned into months, and Darwin began to anticipate the rhythms of his life. Mornings were for careful observation. The way sunlight streamed across the bedroom floor, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the familiar shuffle of footsteps in the hallway. School days were a blend of learning, interaction, reflection, and occasional mischief. Afternoons often held exploration, whether wandering Elmore streets, imagining hidden worlds, or quietly noticing the lives of people around him. Evenings returned him to home, where warmth, comfort, and gentle care awaited. Nighttime brought reflection, daydreams, and preparation for rest. Each segment of his day was carefully observed, noted, and appreciated, weaving together into a slow, rhythmic pattern that was both predictable and comforting. Darwin's imaginative adventures became increasingly elaborate. He sometimes envisioned entire towns built from candy, forests of glowing crystal, rivers that whispered softly as they flowed, and skies that shimmered with shifting colors. In these daydreams, he was not bound by logic or rules, only by observation and careful attention to detail. Gumball often entered these worlds with wide-eyed excitement, adding energy and unpredictability. Darwin's contributions added steadiness and coherence, ensuring that the fantastical remained soothing rather than chaotic. Together, they explored magical kingdoms, solved gentle puzzles, and learned subtle lessons about courage, empathy, and kindness. These sequences were deliberately paced using repetitive, calming patterns of description to ease the listener into a relaxed, meditative state. Family moments became increasingly rich in subtle detail. Darwin observed Nicole's small gestures of care, the way she measured ingredients with precision, her soft humming while washing dishes, the way she paused occasionally to watch her children with quiet pride. Richard's carefree energy was a source of humor and unpredictability, yet Darwin learned to find patterns in his chaos, noticing moments of warmth, attention, and shared joy. Ananias's quiet intelligence offered guidance and reflection, teaching Darwin to notice not only the obvious, but the subtle, the hidden, and the overlooked. Gumball remained a source of excitement, laughter, and companionship, teaching Darwin spontaneity, boldness, and the joy of imaginative leaps. Together, these family interactions formed a web of comfort, stability, and gentle lessons. Darwin began to explore more complex emotional landscapes. He noticed feelings in himself and others: worry, joy, embarrassment, hope, and quiet satisfaction. He reflected on these emotions carefully, imagining them as colors, patterns, and textures, softening their edges and allowing space for understanding. He learned to manage disappointment through observation and patience, to celebrate successes without overwhelming excitement, and to offer support without expectation. Small, intentional actions, helping a friend with homework, offering a kind word to a sibling, quietly comforting a classmate, became the fabric of his days. These repeated, thoughtful gestures reinforced the narrative's calm rhythm, strengthening the sleep-friendly pacing. Even in mundane moments, Darwin found depth. He noticed the hum of the air conditioning, a slight shift of shadows across the carpet, the gentle sway of leaves outside the window. He observed how sunlight altered the colors of walls, the soft rhythm of family footsteps, and the distant sound of traffic far beyond Elmore. These tiny details grounded him, connecting him to the present while encouraging reflection. Gumball often teased or laughed loudly, but Darwin learned to integrate the noise into his awareness, finding calm amidst chaos. Together, they created a dynamic of contrast, energy balanced by observation, impulsiveness tempered by attentiveness, laughter softened by mindfulness. Finally, as night fell and the house grew quiet, Darwin prepared for rest. He lay in bed, feeling the warmth of blankets, the soft glow of moonlight, and the steady comfort of home. He reflected on the day's small victories, observed the subtle beauty of his surroundings, and allowed his mind to drift gently. He imagined gentle rivers, quiet forests, distant stars, and floating clouds. In a soft whisper, he again wondered about the listener. Where are you watching from tonight? Are you wrapped in a blanket, lying quietly, feeling safe, ready to drift into sleep alongside him? This gentle awareness created a shared calm, a connection across space, a soft pause in the world's chaos. And so Darwin's first months on land, his early school days, adventures, family interactions, and reflective thoughts flowed together into a slow, rhythmic pattern of living, imagining, observing, and growing. Each moment was a soft wave, rising and falling, guiding the listener gently toward a calm, sleep-friendly state. With this, the first 10,000 words of Darwin Watterson's story, the quiet, careful, reflective portion, neared completion, capturing his beginnings, his family, his friendships, and the gentle rhythm of his everyday life in Elmore. As the weeks unfolded, Darwin's world continued to expand, though always in ways both soft and comforting. The rhythm of his days had become familiar. Mornings bathed in gentle light, school filled with quiet observations, afternoons of exploration and reflection, evenings warm with the family presence, and nights where he drifted into thoughts that carried him toward dreams. Yet even within this comforting structure, Darwin discovered new subtleties in the world. He noticed patterns he had not before. How sunlight bent through the classroom windows differently depending on the time of day. The delicate change in a friend's expression when they were happy but trying to hide it. The faint hum of the refrigerator that marked the household's pulse. These small observations, quietly noted, became an essential part of his understanding of life, and he absorbed them like sunlight, warm and steady. One morning, Darwin and Gumball wandered past the edges of the schoolyard, discovering a narrow path behind a row of bushes that seemed to lead to nowhere. Curiosity stirred within them, gentle and persistent. The path led to a small clearing where grass grew thick and soft, the sunlight filtering through the high branches of an old oak tree. Tiny flowers, almost invisible unless you looked closely, dotted the grass in subtle colors, white, pink, pale yellow. Darwin knelt down, examining each petal, tracing the way veins split and joined, the way the wind caused them to sway gently. He realized that the world contained an almost infinite number of small miracles, each one waiting patiently for someone to notice. Gumball, meanwhile, ran in circles, laughing and creating imaginary creatures that danced along the flowers. Darwin smiled, quiet and content, feeling that even in the smallest corners of Elmore, adventure could exist without chaos, and magic could be found without loud spectacle. School lessons became part of the rhythm, a gentle ebb and flow that combined learning with observation. In math class, Darwin noticed patterns not just in numbers, but in the way his classmates approached problem solving. The quiet student who paused to think before answering. the one who always rushed, the teacher who offered encouragement at just the right moment. In science, he marveled at the smallest organisms under the microscope, the intricate symmetry of leaves and the delicate interplay of light and chemical reactions. Each lesson was more than information. It was a story of observation, of noticing, of understanding the world in a careful, detailed way. Gumball sometimes found the lessons dull, but Darwin's gentle enthusiasm often pulled him in, and together they discovered small wonders even in seemingly ordinary tasks. Afternoons often led them to quiet explorations of the town, where Darwin's attentiveness contrasted beautifully with Gumball's boisterous energy. They discovered a small, forgotten alley behind the bakery, where crumbs on the ground attracted flocks of birds. Darwin watched the patterns of their wings, the way they hopped and fluttered, the soft rustle of feathers in the breeze. He imagined stories for each bird, a tiny adventurer seeking crumbs, a mother teaching her chicks to fly, a wandering traveler returning home. Gumball created his own tales full of drama and excitement, and Darwin blended them with subtle realism, forming a balance that was comforting, rhythmic, and imaginative. These gentle exercises in observation and storytelling became their ritual, a slow journey through discovery that encouraged mindfulness and empathy. Darwin's emotional growth deepened in parallel with these explorations. He noticed the quiet sadness of a classmate sitting alone, the subtle anxiety of someone struggling to speak, the soft joy in moments of achievement. He learned to respond in ways that were subtle but meaningful, a smile, a nod, a quiet word of encouragement. One rainy afternoon, he sat under the overhang of the school's front steps, watching drops of rain scatter across the pavement. He observed a classmate struggling to open an umbrella, paused, and helped carefully without drawing attention. The small gesture brought a sense of calm satisfaction, not pride, not applause, just quiet acknowledgement that he had made the world slightly better. Gumball, meanwhile, splashed in puddles with energetic laughter, and Darwin observed him with a fond, quiet patience, understanding that their differences in temperament complemented each other perfectly. Imagination remained a central part of Darwin's life. He often drifted into elaborate daydreams where Elmore transformed into vast landscapes of fantasy. He pictured the streets lined with glowing flowers, trees that whispered secrets, and rivers that shimmered with colors unseen in the ordinary world. Gumball became his companion in these imagined realms, full of loud declarations and sudden actions, while Darwin added subtlety, structure, and coherence. He imagined floating islands where tiny creatures performed delicate dances, valleys where streams sang quietly, and forests where each leaf told a story. The narrative dwelled on sensory details, the softness of moss beneath his feet, the gentle hum of distant wind, the warm glow of sunlight refracted through the colored water, the delicate scent of imagined blossoms. Each description was intentionally slow, soothing, and meditative, encouraging the listener's mind to relax alongside Darwin's. Even within the Watterson home, small adventures and observations filled Darwin's days. He noticed the way Nicole folded laundry with precision, the quiet humor in Richard's missteps, the thoughtful curiosity in Aeneas's eyes, and the unpredictable creativity in Gumball's movements. He learned to anticipate patterns, Nicole's rhythm in cooking, Richard's rhythm in mischief, Aeneas's rhythm in thinking, Gumball's rhythm in improvisation. These observations were more than entertainment. They were lessons in empathy, patience, and attentiveness. Darwin's gentle nature allowed him to appreciate subtleties others might overlook, creating a quiet harmony within the bustling, chaotic environment of the household. Occasionally, Darwin felt small waves of frustration or doubt. He sometimes worried he was too quiet, too careful, too unremarkable. Yet he learned that his strength lay in these qualities, the ability to notice what others missed, to act without expectation, to bring calm where there was chaos. One evening, as he watched fireflies dance across the garden, he reflected on the day's small victories, the unnoticed act of kindness, the gentle guidance he had provided to Gumball, the soft observation of nature. Each moment reinforced the quiet confidence, the understanding that he could influence the world meaningfully without noise, drama, or spectacle. Gumball often tested his patience with wild antics, yet Darwin approached each situation with calm reasoning, gradually understanding the balance between energy and serenity, between impulsiveness and mindfulness. Nighttime became a space for reflection and gentle dreaming. Darwin would lie in bed, feeling the warmth of blankets and the faint glow of moonlight, thinking about the day's experiences, the patterns he had observed, and the tiny gestures that had created connections. He imagined faraway places, oceans stretching beyond the horizon, forests filled with unseen creatures, skies that shimmered with distant stars. He thought of the listener, softly whispering in thought, "Where are you watching from tonight?" He imagined them in bed, perhaps wrapped in a blanket, lying quietly, ready to drift into sleep. This awareness created a gentle intimacy, a shared calm, bridging Darwin's world with the listeners, reinforcing the slow, meditative rhythm of the narrative. As the days continued, Darwin's adventures became slightly more structured, blending imagination with practical exploration. He and Gumball built small contraptions in the backyard, experimented with simple science projects at home, and observed natural phenomena in the park. Each activity was described with slow, deliberate attention to detail. The way sunlight glinted off metal surfaces, the hum of small motors, the soft rustle of grass beneath their feet, the faint scent of freshly turned earth. These sequences were intentionally gentle, emphasizing observation, learning, and discovery rather than chaos or high-stakes drama. The goal was calm engagement, soft mental stimulation, and the creation of a comforting, rhythmic narrative. Friendship remained central to Darwin's experiences. He noticed the subtle dynamics among classmates, who needed encouragement, who felt overlooked, who thrived in group projects. He learned to mediate gently, offer guidance subtly, and celebrate others' successes without drawing attention to himself. He found particular joy in noticing the quiet ways people expressed themselves. The tilt of a head, a soft smile, a fleeting glance, the rhythm of speech. These observations became a form of meditation, a practice in awareness, empathy, and patience. Gumball's exuberance contrasted with Darwin's attentiveness, yet together they created balance, energy tempered by reflection, spontaneity guided by mindfulness, laughter softened by observation. Darwin's daydreams often blended past, present, and imagined future. He recalled his life as a fish, floating peacefully in the bowl, observing the world from within water, and merged it with his current experiences on land. He imagined swimming through luminous underwater landscapes, gliding alongside creatures both real and fantastical. He envisioned soaring above the town of Elmore, observing rooftops, streets, and trees from a gentle distance. These daydreams were slow, deliberate, and immersive, emphasizing sensory detail. The cool shimmer of water, the soft sway of plants, the warmth of sunlight on scales or skin, the rhythmic pulse of waves or wind. Each sequence encouraged relaxation, reflection, and a gradual transition toward calmness. Family interactions continued to shape Darwin's understanding of connection and empathy. Nicole's guidance, Richard's playful energy, Aeneas's quiet observation, and Gumball's companionship created a web of relationships that balanced learning, laughter, and care. Darwin observed subtle cues, the soft smile when someone appreciated a small effort, the quiet pause in conversation that indicated thoughtfulness, the gentle touch of reassurance when frustration arose. He learned to respond appropriately, cultivating patience, kindness, and subtle humor. Even in mundane routines, dinner, chores, bedtime, Darwin noticed patterns and rhythms, finding comfort in the predictability and gentle repetition of daily life. Evenings often ended with shared quiet moments. Darwin and Gumball sometimes lay on the grass in the backyard, watching stars emerge as daylight faded. Darwin reflected on the vastness of the sky, the smallness of the town, and the quiet wonder of the universe. He thought about friendships, family, the patterns of life, and the gentle lessons hidden in everyday experiences. Gumball might point out constellations in imaginative ways, and Darwin would smile, blending the fantastical with observation. These moments were slow, deliberate, and meditative, reinforcing the narrative's soothing rhythm, preparing the listener to drift gently towards sleep. And so Darwin's days unfolded like a slow, comforting current. Observation, learning, quiet adventure, imaginative daydreams, small acts of kindness, reflection, and gentle family connection. Each moment added to the rich tapestry of his life, blending calm, curiosity, empathy, and creativity. The rhythm of his life, his experiences, and his reflections created a soothing, meditative narrative, perfect for drifting into sleep. And in quiet thought, he always wondered about the listener, whispering softly in his mind, "Where are you watching from tonight? Are you resting comfortably, ready to join him in gentle, peaceful dreams?" Darwin's life, though now flowing in steady, familiar rhythms, still brimmed with subtle wonder. The ordinary moments of Elmore often became gateways to extraordinary discoveries, though always gentle and quiet, never harsh or abrupt. One particularly warm afternoon, Darwin and Gumball wandered near a secluded pond at the edge of town. The water was still, reflecting the sky like a polished mirror, and dragonflies hovered in soft patterns above the surface. Darwin knelt at the edge, letting his fingers brush the water, feeling tiny ripples expand outward, almost like the gentle heartbeat of the pond itself. He watched carefully as a small school of fish swam near the surface, their scales catching the sunlight, shimmering like tiny lanterns. In this tranquil scene, Darwin imagined entire underwater kingdoms, cities constructed of coral, luminous caverns, and quiet creatures who communicated in gestures as subtle as ripples. Gumball, ever eager to add drama, imagined heroic fish nights and battles, but Darwin's calm contributions added a slow, rhythmic balance, turning the imagined pond into a space of quiet fascination and gentle wonder. School continued as a mix of learning, observation, and careful interaction. Darwin noticed nuances in his classmates' behavior. Now, the student who tapped their pencil nervously, the one whose gaze drifted to the window during class, the soft sigh of someone quietly trying to solve a problem. He learned that being attentive to these subtleties allowed him to connect with others without intrusion. One day during a science experiment, a small mishap occurred. A liquid spilled across the table, threatening the careful work of several classmates. Darwin acted swiftly but calmly, helping clean up, adjusting materials, and offering quiet guidance. While Gumball's instinct was to laugh or exclaim, Darwin maintained a gentle focus, ensuring the situation remained calm and resolved. By the end of the class, the group not only understood the experiment, but had learned an unspoken lesson about patience, care, and teamwork, all guided by Darwin's steady, quiet presence. Afternoons often became realms of slow adventure. One day, Darwin discovered a narrow path winding through an overgrown patch of trees behind the school. The sunlight filtered through the leaves in shifting patterns, casting gentle shadows that moved like living lace across the ground. Darwin walked slowly, observing the texture of bark, the tiny veins in leaves, the subtle vibrations of insects hidden in the undergrowth. He imagined the tiny lives that existed in these quiet spaces, crafting elaborate stories of hidden families of animals, secret councils of insects, and miniature adventurers traveling along delicate branches. Gumball added high-energy drama, chasing imagined villains, leaping across imaginary chasms. But Darwin's careful, rhythmic guidance ensured that the world remained calm, detailed, and soothing, blending imagination with mindfulness. Evenings at home offered comfort and reflection. Nicole's care provided structure. Richard's playful energy brought warmth. Aeneas's quiet observation offered subtle guidance. And Gumball's antics brought laughter tempered by attention. Darwin found that these contrasts taught balance, energy tempered by calm, impulsiveness guided by observation, humor softened by empathy. One night, as the family settled quietly after dinner, Darwin watched Nicole carefully wash dishes, noting the rhythm of her movements, the warm glow of the kitchen light, and the faint hum of water running. Richard hummed absent-mindedly, occasionally dropping a dish, while Aeneas quietly corrected minor mistakes, all without raising their voices. Gumball sprawled across the table, attempting to tell an exaggerated story. Darwin observed, reflected, and felt a quiet contentment, recognizing that even ordinary tasks contain lessons in patience, attentiveness, and gentle care. Imagination continued to expand in deliberate, slow sequences. Darwin often drifted into fantastical landscapes where Elmore transformed into a mosaic of wonder. He envisioned forests where the trees glowed softly at night, rivers that whispered their own secrets, and valleys populated by creatures both gentle and wise. He imagined floating islands where the ground shimmered like liquid gold, where creatures of all shapes and sizes moved in harmonious patterns, and where sunlight refracted in slow, soothing rhythms. Gumball, in his own exuberant way, added dragons, loud announcements, and sudden conflicts. Darwin's quiet guidance ensured these scenarios retained a meditative quality, emphasizing beauty, rhythm, and calm resolution rather than chaos or overstimulation. Each imaginary journey served both as adventure and relaxation, creating a slow, comforting rhythm for mind and body. Darwin's emotional awareness deepened during these months. He noticed the quiet shifts in mood around him, the subtle tension in a friend's shoulders, the soft sigh indicating relief, the fleeting glance of embarrassment, or the small smile hinting at joy. One afternoon, Darwin observed a student struggling to carry a heavy bag across the playground. Without fuss, he stepped forward, offering help in a quiet, reassuring way. The act was unnoticed by most, but the subtle gratitude in the student's eyes conveyed a deep sense of connection. Darwin learned that influence need not be loud or visible. Small gestures, delivered with calm attentiveness, often carried the most meaningful impact. Gumball sometimes expressed frustration at the subtlety, but Darwin gently reminded him that quiet kindness often spoke louder than shouting or spectacle. Nighttime became a sacred space for reflection and imaginative wandering. Darwin lay in bed, observing the faint glow of moonlight filtering through his window, the gentle sway of curtains, the soft rhythm of the house settling into quiet. He reflected on the day's observations, small acts of kindness, subtle interactions, and moments of imaginative exploration. In his mind, he traced gentle patterns, The ripple of the pond, the sway of leaves, the quiet footsteps of family members. He imagined traveling far distances across oceans, through forests, over mountains, always at a calm, unhurried pace. The narrative emphasized sensory details, the feel of water against skin, the shimmer of starlight, the soft hum of wind through distant trees. Each description was slow, deliberate, and rhythmic, guiding the mind toward relaxation. Friendship and connection continued as central themes. Darwin noticed not only what was visible, but also what was hidden. The quiet insecurities of classmates, the subtle needs of friends, the unspoken desires of siblings. He learned to respond appropriately, offering encouragement, companionship, and gentle humor. One day he observed two classmates arguing over a minor disagreement. Darwin intervened softly, suggesting a compromise and guiding each person to understand the other's perspective. The resolution was subtle but effective, reinforcing his understanding that calm attentiveness often prevented conflict more successfully than loud interventions. Gumball, in contrast, often sought dramatic resolutions, and Darwin learned to integrate these approaches, balancing energy with observation. Afternoons of exploration often included long, slow walks through Elmore's quieter streets. Darwin noticed patterns in the town, the way shadows shifted as clouds passed overhead, and the subtle changes in light reflecting off windows, the rhythmic sounds of distant traffic, and the soft movements of animals hidden from immediate view. He imagined stories for each observation. A bird quietly teaching its chicks to fly, a cat exploring its small kingdom of rooftops, a lost paper drifting in the wind finding its way home. These stories, gentle and detailed, emphasized mindfulness, observation, and connection with the environment. Gumball often added loud, imaginative flourishes, and Darwin blended them carefully, ensuring that each narrative remained calm and soothing, creating a balance between energy and tranquility. Darwin also explored more abstract concepts in his imaginative wanderings. He reflected on time, considering the slow passage of days, the rhythm of seasons, and the unseen cycles of nature. He noticed how sunlight changed throughout the day, how the wind shifted subtly, how clouds formed and dissipated in quiet patterns. He imagined the slow growth of trees, the gentle flow of rivers, and the intricate lives of insects and small creatures. These reflections emphasized continuity, patience, and the gentle unfolding of life. Each observation was described with rhythmic repetition and detailed sensory imagery, helping the listener's mind settle into a meditative, reflective state. Family life remained a source of grounding and comfort. Nicole's guidance, Richard's playful presence, Aeneas's quiet intelligence, and Gumball's companionship created a rich tapestry of interaction. Darwin observed small cues, the tilt of Nicole's hand when gesturing, Richard's subtle expressions of satisfaction, Aeneas's slight nods of approval, Gumball's bursts of laughter. He learned to integrate these observations into his own actions, responding with calm attentiveness, gentle humor, and empathy. Evening routines, dinner, chores, bedtime, became slow, comforting rituals. Darwin noticed the rhythm of these activities, finding reassurance in predictability and quiet enjoyment in subtle variations. Imaginative sequences often blurred into gentle surrealism. Darwin pictured floating cities, rivers of light, forests that shifted in color with the wind, and skies filled with softly glowing stars. Gumball added fantastical drama, sudden magical creatures, explosive events, or bold adventures. Darwin's careful guidance ensured these scenarios maintained a meditative pace, emphasizing beauty, rhythm, and calm resolution. Each adventure was immersive, yet deliberately paced to encourage relaxation, mindfulness, and gentle engagement. Small lessons in empathy, observation, and cooperation were interwoven seamlessly into these journeys, reinforcing calm growth and reflection. As the day faded into night, Darwin's thoughts turned inward. He reflected on kindness, attention, observation, and imagination. He considered how each small gesture, helping a friend, noticing a detail, offering a kind word, rippled through the world quietly but meaningfully. He imagined distant oceans, glowing forests, floating islands, and the subtle play of light across unknown landscapes. He pictured the listener, softly whispering in thought, "Where are you watching from tonight? Are you settled, ready to drift gently alongside him into dreams?" This awareness created intimacy, a shared calm across space, reinforcing the narrative's soothing rhythm. And so Darwin's life continued to flow in gentle currents, calm observation, quiet adventure, imaginative daydreams, subtle acts of kindness, reflective thought, and gentle family and friend connections. Each moment contributed to the tapestry of his experiences, blending curiosity, empathy, creativity, and tranquility. The rhythm of his days and nights became a slow, soothing pulse, guiding the listener gently toward rest, reflection, and calm sleep, while weaving the story of Darwin Watterson into a world of gentle wonder and serene discovery. As autumn settled softly over Elmore, Darwin began to notice the subtleties of change in the world around him. Leaves turned gold, red, and amber, drifting slowly to the ground like tiny, silent messengers. He observed their shapes, the gentle curling at the edges, the way sunlight filtered through them, casting intricate patterns on sidewalks and grass. Gumball bounded through the piles of leaves with enthusiastic leaps, sending bursts of color into the air, while Darwin walked more slowly, savoring each small movement, each shifting shadow. He imagined that every leaf carried a quiet story, a brief journey from the tree to the earth, the lives of insects that traveled across it, the soft whisper of the wind that carried it onward. These reflections created a rhythm of observation, a calm pace that grounded him and encouraged the listener to notice beauty in small, quiet moments. School days continued in a gentle cadence, with Darwin becoming more attuned to the subtleties of classroom life. He noticed how a teacher paused slightly before offering encouragement, how one classmate fidgeted with their pencil when nervous, and how another smiled quietly when they understood a difficult concept. Darwin discovered the quiet power of encouragement and attention, offering small, deliberate gestures, a nod, a whisper of reassurance, or a gentle smile. One chilly morning, he helped a classmate tie their scarf without drawing attention. The simple act, unnoticed by most, created a subtle sense of safety and connection. Gumball, meanwhile, continued to be loud and exuberant. But Darwin learned to integrate his energy into calmer sequences, balancing excitement with reflection. Afternoons often became gentle adventures through the quieter corners of Elmore. Darwin discovered a narrow hidden path behind the library, lined with bushes and small flowers that seemed to glow in dappled sunlight. He paused frequently, noting the texture of petals, the faint scent of damp earth, and the delicate hum of insects moving unseen. Gumball ran ahead in spurts of energy, laughing and creating imaginary stories about magical creatures hiding in the foliage. Darwin followed, contributing quietly, imagining small ecosystems, tiny kingdoms of animals, and the slow unfolding of life in each corner. These explorations emphasized mindfulness, observation, and the quiet thrill of discovery, with the rhythm of steps and breath blending with the soft music of nature. Family life provided a continuing backdrop of warmth and stability. Nicole's careful attention, Richard's playful unpredictability, Ananias's thoughtful observation, and Gumball's vibrant energy created a rich environment of interaction. Darwin observed subtle cues, the slight tilt of Nicole's head when listening, Richard's expressive gestures during moments of joy, Ananias's faint smile when noticing patterns, Gumball's bursts of laughter and imagination. Each interaction offered lessons in empathy, patience, and understanding, reinforcing Darwin's quiet, attentive nature. Evening routines, dinner, chores, small conversations, became gentle rituals, creating continuity, safety, and the subtle comfort of predictability. Darwin's imagination often carried him into fantastical landscapes, where Elmore's familiar streets transformed into worlds of gentle wonder. He imagined glowing forests where the trees hummed softly, rivers of liquid light that reflected shifting stars, and floating islands that drifted slowly across skies of warm pastel colors. Gumball's energy added bursts of dramatic storytelling, dragons, sudden adventures, and loud declarations. But Darwin's careful guidance ensured the pace remained slow, meditative, and calming. He focused on sensory detail, the gentle sway of glowing leaves, the soft ripple of luminous water, the faint warmth of sunlight refracted through clouds, the subtle patterns of starlight. Each element was described deliberately, with slow rhythmic repetition, creating a space that encouraged relaxation and reflection. Emotional growth became increasingly subtle and nuanced. Darwin noticed quiet anxieties in classmates, the fleeting joy in small successes, and the gentle disappointment of mistakes. He learned to respond with empathy, patience, and gentle guidance. One afternoon, a friend dropped a project piece, frustrated and embarrassed. Darwin knelt quietly, helping them rearrange the materials without comment or judgment. The friend's relief and quiet smile were enough to reinforce Darwin's understanding that meaningful influence often came through calm attention rather than loud intervention. Gumball, energetic and impulsive, sometimes struggled to understand this subtlety, but Darwin's steady example helped him appreciate the quieter rhythms of care and understanding. Nights became a sanctuary for reflection, daydreams, and the slow winding down of energy. Darwin lay in his bed, soft blankets tucked around him, moonlight spilling across the walls. He reflected on the day's events, small gestures of kindness, quiet observations, subtle interactions with friends, moments of joy, minor setbacks, and gentle adventures. His mind wandered across imagined landscapes, forests of softly glowing trees, rivers that whispered secrets, mountains with smooth golden slopes, and skies dotted with slowly twinkling stars. Gumball's imagination occasionally erupted in bursts of energy, loud declarations, dramatic adventures. But Darwin's reflective focus guided the mind gently back to calm sequences of imagery, movement, and sensation. During these nights, Darwin often thought about the listener, whispering softly in thought. Where are you watching from tonight? Are you settled under blankets, your body relaxed, ready to drift gently into dreams? He imagined a shared serenity, a calm connection across distance. This awareness created an intimate rhythm, a bridge between his observations, reflections, and fantastical journeys, and the listener's slow drift toward rest. Each reflection, each soft visualization, encouraged calm, meditation, and a sense of quiet wonder. Autumn gave way slowly to winter, and Darwin noticed the subtle transformations around him. Frost began to lace the edges of windows, air crisp and clean, leaves replaced by quiet snow covering the ground. He observed tiny patterns in frozen puddles, the soft shimmer of ice under morning light, and the gentle drift of snowflakes landing silently on the earth. Gumball played in sudden bursts of energy, leaping and sliding through snowbanks, while Darwin moved more deliberately, savoring the quiet textures, sounds, and soft rhythms. He imagined snow-covered kingdoms, quiet villages of tiny creatures, and floating lanterns illuminating icy rivers, all described in calm, detailed language to encourage gentle observation and relaxation. School days adapted to the change of seasons. Darwin noticed how snow softened footsteps, muffled sounds, and shifted the rhythm of movement across the playground. Classmates adapted, some struggling with icy pathways, others discovering small delights in snowballs, snow angels, or playful antics. Darwin observed carefully, helping where needed, offering quiet guidance, and reflecting on the subtle joys and challenges of the season. One day a friend slipped on ice, slightly frightened but unharmed. Darwin calmly offered his hand, helped them regain balance, and shared a quiet laugh. The lesson, gentle and unspoken, reinforced the rhythm of care, observation, and empathy that defined his interactions. Imaginative sequences during winter became more detailed and sensory-rich. Darwin pictured forests blanketed in snow where animals left delicate trails and powdery drifts, and rivers shimmered beneath frozen surfaces. He imagined glowing lanterns floating across icy ponds, tiny creatures building miniature homes in snowbanks, and skies filled with northern lights that moved slowly, rhythmically, across the heavens. Gumball's imagination added bold, dramatic flourishes, snowy battles, magical creatures, and high-energy antics. But Darwin's careful guidance maintained a soothing, meditative tone. Each element emphasized calm observation, sensory awareness, and gentle storytelling, encouraging both character and listener to relax, reflect, and drift into a state of quiet wonder. Evenings at home became cocooned in warmth and familiarity. Nicole prepared meals with meticulous care. Richard moved playfully, but with growing attentiveness. Anaya offered thoughtful observations, and Gumball contributed bursts of imagination and humor. Darwin observed each interaction carefully. The soft glow of lamplight on silverware, the rhythmic sounds of stirring and chopping, the quiet laughter that softened the air. He noticed subtleties, Richard's small moments of kindness, Nicole's quiet patience, Anaya's tiny gestures of approval that deepened his understanding of human connection. Each observation and reflection added layers of comfort, empathy, and mindfulness, gently reinforcing the calm rhythm of daily life. As nighttime approached, Darwin prepared for rest with deliberate care. He wrapped himself in soft blankets, adjusted pillows, and listened to the faint hum of the house settling into quiet. He reflected on the day's events, small acts of kindness, subtle observations, imaginative journeys, gentle adventures, emotional growth, and familial warmth. He imagined floating across snowy landscapes, gliding through softly glowing forests, or drifting across gentle rivers under star-filled skies. He thought of the listener once more, asking softly in his mind, "Where are you watching from tonight? Are you ready to drift into a calm, restorative sleep, sharing in the quiet magic of his world?" Through these months, Darwin's life unfolded as a slow, deliberate, and comforting rhythm. Careful observation, gentle adventures, imaginative exploration, subtle acts of kindness, emotional reflection, and family connection. Each moment wove together into a tapestry of calmness, mindfulness, and gentle wonder, reinforcing a slow, meditative cadence that encouraged both Darwin and the listener to relax and drift peacefully toward sleep. As the days of winter deepened, Darwin noticed subtle patterns in the world that had previously gone unseen. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the air, each one a tiny masterpiece, unique and intricate. He would catch them on his fingertips and watch as they melted, leaving behind faint traces of water, soft and fleeting. Gumball, ever energetic, tried to catch them midair, laughing as they landed on his nose and eyebrows. Darwin smiled quietly, observing the way light refracted through each crystal, imagining a hidden world within each flake, delicate forests and crystalline cities, creatures moving with silent grace. Even in chaos, there was beauty, balance, and rhythm, a lesson that resonated with the gentle pace of his life. School continued, but Darwin had grown into his role as a quiet observer, a friend who noticed what others did not. He saw the nervous glance of a student about to read aloud, the subtle disappointment when a classmate's project didn't turn out as expected, the muted joy of success when effort was rewarded. Darwin's responses were deliberate and gentle, a supportive smile, a helping hand, or a quiet word of encouragement. Gumball, who sometimes thrived on the loud excitement of events, began to appreciate the subtlety and care of Darwin's approach. Together, they balanced energy and reflection, understanding that life could be both vibrant and calm, adventurous and meditative. Afternoons became opportunities for longer, slower adventures. Darwin led Gumball along quiet paths through the snow-laden park or behind the library, pausing to observe the subtle changes winter brought to familiar landscapes. He noticed the way frost glimmered on bare branches, how animal tracks traced quiet stories in the snow, and the soft hush that blanketed the earth. Gumball spun tales of magical creatures living in the icy woods, snow dragons, winter foxes, and glimmering spirits. But Darwin's gentle guidance ensured that the narrative retained a soft, calming rhythm, emphasizing beauty and discovery over chaos or conflict. Together they explored, imagined, and reflected, each step echoing the slow pulse of quiet understanding. Family life remained a warm, grounding presence. Nicole moved with her familiar precision and care. Richard continued his unpredictable but endearing antics. Aeneas provided thoughtful observations, and Gumball added vibrancy and humor. Darwin noticed subtle interactions, Nicole's small nods when observing her children, Richard's moments of genuine attentiveness, Aeneas's quiet recognition of effort, Gumball's occasional bursts of insight hidden beneath energy. Each moment reinforced the rhythm of care, attention, and empathy that had become the foundation of Darwin's daily life. Evening routines, dinner, chores, quiet conversation were imbued with comfort, continuity, and subtle joy. Imaginative sequences became increasingly dreamlike. Darwin pictured Elmore transformed into gentle, fantastical landscapes, forests of softly glowing trees, rivers of liquid light, floating islands drifting across pastel skies. Snow-covered hills rolled endlessly, shimmering under starlight, while small creatures scuttled quietly in hidden tunnels, each performing their tasks with calm precision. Darwin's guidance kept the sequences meditative, emphasizing sensory detail and calm pacing. He described the faint scent of winter air, the crunch of snow beneath tiny feet, the delicate shimmer of frost, the rhythmic sway of glowing branches, all carefully designed to soothe and lull the mind. Darwin's emotional insight deepened during these months. He noticed the subtle fluctuations of feelings, the quiet excitement of discovery, the gentle ache of disappointment, the fleeting warmth of gratitude, and the soft contentment of a shared smile. He responded with empathy, patience, and thoughtful guidance. One day he noticed a classmate quietly struggling to finish a project. Darwin knelt beside them, offering calm encouragement, a helping hand, and gentle reassurance. The classmates smiled faintly, relief softening their expression. These small acts reinforced Darwin's understanding. True influence often came not through loud gestures or recognition, but through quiet attentiveness, subtle guidance, and compassionate presence. As night fell, Darwin's thoughts turned inward, drifting seamlessly between reflection and imagination. He lay in his bed, the soft glow of moonlight filtering through curtains, blankets warm around him. He revisited the day's gentle adventures, helping classmates, noticing tiny wonders in nature, sharing quiet moments with family, exploring fantastical landscapes with Gumball. He imagined traveling across oceans of soft light, floating above snow-covered forests, gliding over rivers shimmering like liquid silver, visiting islands suspended in pastel skies. Each journey emphasized slow, sensory-rich observation, the delicate shift of light on water, the rhythmic sway of trees in a soft breeze, the gentle hum of unseen creatures moving quietly, the faint scent of flowers carried on imaginary winds. Even in the depths of these fantastical journeys, Darwin remained mindful. He reflected on lessons learned, kindness given, observations made, and connections nurtured. He understood that each small gesture, whether helping a friend, noticing a pattern, or offering a kind word, was a ripple in the gentle current of life. Gumball, though occasionally loud and unpredictable, began to understand this rhythm too, blending bursts of energy with reflective pauses, laughter with gentle observation, and chaos with calm. Together, they explored worlds that were safe, nurturing, and meditative, reinforcing a shared rhythm of curiosity and calm. Family moments in these nights became particularly poignant. Nicole's quiet care, Richard's accidental charm, Aeneas's thoughtful presence, and Gumball's exuberant humor created a comforting, steady backdrop. Darwin observed, reflected, and integrated these lessons into his understanding of connection. One evening, as the family gathered near the fireplace, Richard accidentally knocked over a cup, and Nicole sighed gently. Aeneas quietly helped clean up, Gumball added a playful remark, and Darwin assisted with calm efficiency. In the simple, ordinary moment, Darwin recognized the harmony in contrasts, energy balanced by reflection, impulsiveness guided by attentiveness, laughter softened by care. It was a small but powerful reminder of the gentle rhythm of family life. Imagination continued to drift seamlessly into surreal, dreamlike sequences. Darwin envisioned vast forests where snowflakes hung suspended like tiny lanterns, rivers that sang softly beneath sheets of ice, and skies that shimmered with endless auroras. Tiny magical creatures, foxes with glowing tails, birds with iridescent feathers, rabbits leaving trails of sparkles, moved slowly and deliberately through these landscapes. Gumball occasionally introduced sudden twists, a snowstorm, a playful chase, or a brief encounter with a fantastical creature. But Darwin guided the story carefully, emphasizing calm resolutions, sensory observation, and gentle rhythms. Each sequence was deliberately paced using repetition, soft imagery, and gentle movement to soothe the mind. Darwin reflected on the passage of time, noticing the slow unfolding of seasons, the rhythm of daily life, and the gentle progression of growth. He observed snow melt into puddles, leaves returning to the earth, sunlight stretching longer in the sky, and the quiet changes in friends, family, and surroundings. These reflections became part of his inner meditation, reinforcing a sense of continuity, patience, and mindfulness. Gumball's exuberance, rather than disrupting the rhythm, became a counterbalance, teaching Darwin to integrate energy with reflection, spontaneity with observation, and excitement with calm. As bedtime approached, Darwin prepared for rest with deliberate care. He settled under blankets, adjusted pillows, and listened to the faint, steady hum of the house settling into quiet. He reflected on small acts of the day, helping a classmate, observing subtle wonders in nature, sharing quiet moments with family, exploring fantastical landscapes with Gumball. Each memory was accompanied by a soft, rhythmic visualization. Ripples on a pond, snow drifting gently to the ground, light refracting through frosted windows, the faint sway of tree branches. These mental images were slow, deliberate, and meditative, easing tension, slowing the heart, and guiding both character and listener toward calm. Darwin's thoughts extended beyond the immediate. He imagined distant places bathed in warm light, forests glowing softly under moonlight, rivers reflecting distant stars, islands drifting in gentle skies. He considered the unseen lives of creatures and people alike, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. Even the faintest ripple, the softest sigh, the quietest glance carried meaning. This awareness reinforced a sense of calm purpose, a gentle connection to the world, and the quiet beauty of existence. Gumball, finally winding down beside him, whispered softly about imagined creatures, gentle adventures, and dreams yet to come. Darwin listened, integrating the energy into a slower, reflective rhythm. He imagined traveling together through calm, luminous landscapes, forests, rivers, mountains, islands, and skies, each step slow, sensory-rich, and meditative. Each journey emphasized gentle observation, soft interaction, and the rhythmic unfolding of life's quiet lessons. Finally, as the world outside the Watterson home grew still, Darwin closed his eyes completely. He felt the warmth of blankets, the faint glow of moonlight, and the comforting presence of family nearby. He reflected once more on the day, the small gestures of kindness, the quiet observations, the imaginative explorations, and the emotional growth he had experienced. He imagined the listener one last time. Where are you watching from tonight? Are you lying quietly, ready to drift gently alongside him into sleep, safe and calm? Darwin's breathing slowed, rhythmic and steady, his mind settling into soft patterns of thought and imagination. Snowflakes drifted silently across dreamlike landscapes. Rivers shimmered with gentle light. Forests whispered their secrets softly, and the stars moved slowly across skies of pastel color. He drifted through these gentle worlds, accompanied by Gumball, family, and the quiet pulse of the earth, observing, reflecting, imagining, and resting. Each sensation was deliberate, slow, and comforting. The soft hum of wind, the gentle ripple of water, the faint scent of flowers in winter, the slow shimmer of starlight. And so Darwin Watterson's story reached its peaceful conclusion. Days of gentle observation, quiet adventure, imaginative exploration, emotional growth, and familial warmth had woven together into a slow, meditative tapestry. The rhythm of life and the pulse of thought and the gentle unfolding of experiences guided him and the listener into deep, restorative sleep. The final scene lingered. Darwin beneath soft blankets, moonlight spilling across his room, the quiet pulse of family and the world around him, and the infinite, serene landscapes of imagination waiting beyond the threshold of dreams. Even after the long day had passed, Darwin's imagination never truly rested. The quiet of night provided a canvas upon which he could paint entire worlds, slow and deliberate in motion. He often lay beneath the soft glow of his bedroom moonlight, observing shadows dance gently on the walls as if they had a rhythm of their own. Each shadow told a story in subtle movement. The swaying of branches outside, the quiet stretch of his own limbs beneath blankets, the slight shuffle of Gumball settling beside him. Darwin imagined these shadows as guardians of his night, guiding him gently into slumber, wrapping him in a blanket of soft, rhythmic motion. Outside, winter whispered across Elmore, layering rooftops and streets in gentle frost. Darwin imagined walking through the quiet town, the crunch of snow beneath his feet muted, each step a soft beat in the rhythm of the evening. Streetlights glimmered like distant stars, illuminating the pathways for unseen creatures. He imagined living quietly in the nooks and crannies of the world. Rabbits with luminous eyes hopped through drifts. Foxes with soft, glowing tails slinked along fences, and tiny birds rested in the branches. Feathers fluffed against the chill. Each creature moved slowly, deliberately, a careful dance in the soft glow of winter, reflecting the meditative pace that Darwin sought in both his imagination and the world around him. School days remained a gentle backdrop to these explorations. Darwin had learned to observe beyond the obvious, noticing the small rhythms in classmates' behavior, the gentle tapping of fingers during concentration, the soft sigh when a difficult problem was solved, and the subtle tilt of a head when an idea took root. He offered small, deliberate acts of kindness, quietly sharing materials, offering encouragement without drawing attention, listening attentively when someone needed to speak. Gumball, while often impulsive, began to follow Darwin's example, occasionally pausing his energetic bursts to notice, appreciate, or assist. Together, their friendship became a balance of energy and calm, chaos and reflection, teaching them both the quiet power of attentiveness. Afternoons became adventures in mindfulness and observation. One day, Darwin discovered a frozen pond behind the school, its surface reflecting the gray sky above with soft, rippling distortions. He knelt at the edge, tapping gently on the ice to watch faint vibrations spread slowly outward. He imagined the life beneath the surface, small creatures navigating their frozen world, moving with careful grace. Gumball, thrilled by the icy playground, attempted daring leaps and slides across the pond's surface. Darwin guided him gently, emphasizing balance and awareness, turning playful energy into a rhythmic dance of cautious exploration. The snow around them muffled sound, creating a cocoon of calm in which every motion, every breath, and every sound became part of a slow, deliberate harmony. Family life continued to offer grounding and warmth. Nicole moved through evening routines with calm precision. Richard interspersed quiet moments of humor with bouts of energetic mischief. Aeneas offered subtle guidance and observation, and Gumball contributed bursts of imaginative energy. Darwin noticed the small, almost invisible patterns. Nicole's gentle tilt of her head as she listened, Richard's soft chuckle when something amused him, Aeneas's faint nod acknowledging effort, Gumball's sudden flare of inspiration. These small cues became lessons in empathy, attention, and patience, teaching Darwin to respond with calm understanding, subtle humor, and quiet guidance. Even the simplest family tasks, dinner, cleaning, preparing for bed, became slow, meditative sequences that reinforced comfort, connection, and stability. Darwin's imagination stretched further during the long winter nights. He pictured Elmore transformed into a realm of soft magic. Streets lined with glowing lanterns, trees sparkling with frost that twinkled like tiny stars, rivers flowing with liquid silver, and mountains whose peaks glimmered faintly against the twilight sky. Tiny creatures, some familiar, some fantastical, moved quietly through these landscapes. Foxes with softly glowing tails, rabbits leaving trails of light, birds whose wings refracted faint rainbows. Gumball occasionally introduced sudden drama, a playful avalanche, a swooping dragon, but Darwin gently guided the sequence, emphasizing rhythm, sensory detail, and a calm, soothing pace. Each moment became a gentle journey, reinforcing mindfulness, patience, and reflective observation. Emotional awareness deepened as Darwin observed not only others but himself. He noticed subtle shifts in mood, the fleeting excitement of discovery, the soft ache of disappointment, the quiet satisfaction of effort well done, and the gentle warmth of gratitude. One afternoon, Darwin observed a friend struggling to finish a creative project, discouraged and anxious. Without fanfare, he knelt beside them, offering quiet encouragement and steady guidance. The friend's relief and subtle smile conveyed gratitude without words. Darwin realized that influence need not be loud or public. It often flowed gently, quietly, and meaningfully, much like the slow current of a river winding through an unseen valley. Nighttime became a sacred space for reflection and dreamlike journeys. Darwin lay beneath his blankets, listening to the faint sounds of the house settling, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the distant creak of settling floors, the gentle murmur of wind against windows. He reflected on the day's experiences, small acts of kindness, quiet observations, imaginative adventures, moments of connection with family, and playful explorations with Gumball. In his mind, he drifted through imagined landscapes, snow-laden forests shimmering under pale moonlight, rivers flowing with luminescent water, floating islands suspended in gentle skies, and distant mountains that seemed to breathe slowly with the rhythm of the earth itself. Gumball occasionally interrupted the calm with soft exclamations or laughter, and Darwin welcomed these moments, blending them into a pattern of reflective energy. Together they moved through landscapes of quiet wonder, sliding along frozen rivers, climbing softly glowing hills, watching snowflakes drift lazily through ethereal forests, and following gentle creatures who moved in deliberate, meditative ways. Each sequence emphasized sensory experience, the crunch of snow beneath feet, the gentle sway of frost-laden branches, the shimmering reflection of starlight, and the faint hum of wind through distant valleys, creating a tapestry of calm imagery for both Darwin and the listener. Darwin often returned to the idea of interconnectedness, noticing how even the smallest gestures ripple outward. He thought about the kindnesses exchanged during the day, the smile offered to a friend, the helping hand given quietly, the gentle attention to subtle moods. He realized that each act, no matter how small, contributed to the gentle current of life, much like the quiet snow that blanketed Elmore or the soft wind that shifted the branches. Gumball, learning from these reflections, occasionally paused mid-laughter or mid-leap, observing quietly with Darwin, appreciating the beauty of calm observation in addition to high-energy play. As the night deepened, Darwin focused increasingly on sensory imagery, slow repetition, and rhythmic patterns to prepare both himself and the listener for rest. He imagined walking along a river of silver light, each step producing a gentle ripple that spread outward calmly. Snowflakes drifted in slow arcs, landing softly on the frozen ground. Stars shimmered faintly above, moving in steady meditative patterns. Tiny creatures moved gently through forests, over hills, and across frozen plains, each one following its own quiet rhythm. Even distant mountains seemed to breathe, rising and falling slowly with the pulse of the earth, creating a natural lullaby for mind and body. Family interactions continued to provide comfort and reflection. Nicole's careful routines, Richard's gentle humor, Anais' thoughtful guidance, and Gumball's imaginative energy created a rich backdrop for Darwin's meditative exploration. He noticed small, quiet moments, Nicole's calm handling of dishes, Richard's soft laughter when he tripped or dropped something, Anai's subtle acknowledgement of effort, Gumball's sudden bursts of inspiration. Each interaction reinforced patterns of empathy, attention, and subtle humor, offering lessons in mindfulness and gentle connection. Even ordinary tasks, tidying up, preparing for bed, or settling down for story became part of a rhythmic sequence, fostering calm and reinforcing a sense of security. Imaginative sequences gradually shifted toward dreamlike abstraction. Darwin envisioned forests of luminescent trees, rivers of softly flowing light, hills covered in faintly glowing snow, and skies of shifting pastel color. Tiny magical creatures move slowly and deliberately through these landscapes. Glowing foxes, rabbits leaving trails of light, birds whose wings refracted rainbow hues, and distant animals who moved in quiet, purposeful patterns. Gumball occasionally added bursts of drama, a sudden snowstorm, a playful chase, or a friendly creature appearing unexpectedly. But Darwin's careful guidance ensured that each scenario maintained calm pacing, sensory richness, and gentle resolution. The rhythm of the narrative became a slow, soothing pulse, encouraging reflection, mindfulness, and gentle relaxation. As Darwin's bedtime approached, he prepared for rest with deliberate care. He settled under blankets, adjusted pillows, and focused on gentle breathing. He revisited the day's quiet adventures, helping friends, observing subtle wonders, sharing moments with family, exploring imagined landscapes, and reflecting on lessons learned. Each visualization was carefully crafted. Snow drifting across soft hills, rivers glowing with gentle light, trees swaying in rhythmic patterns, stars shimmering softly across the sky. These images, combined with deep rhythmic breathing, guided both Darwin and the listener toward a state of calm, meditative relaxation. Finally, as the night reached its deepest point, Darwin closed his eyes completely. He imagined drifting through landscapes, both familiar and fantastical. Snow-covered forests glowing softly under moonlight, rivers reflecting distant stars, floating islands, moving slowly across pastel skies, and tiny creatures moving quietly in hidden corners of the world. Gumball, nestled nearby, added soft exclamations or quiet laughter, which Darwin integrated gently into the rhythm of thought. Together they traversed these dreamlike realms, observing, reflecting, imagining, and resting. And so Darwin Watterson's extended journey concluded in a state of calm, restorative sleep. Days of gentle observation, imaginative exploration, emotional growth, subtle acts of kindness, and familial warmth had woven together into a slow, meditative tapestry. Each moment contributed to a rhythm of mindfulness, reflection, and serene wonder. Darwin breathed slowly, deeply, and evenly. His body warm under blankets, his mind calm, and his spirit at peace. And you, the listener, lying quietly in your own space, drift alongside him. You notice the soft snow falling in imagined forests, the gentle ripple of rivers, the slow sway of trees, and the distant shimmer of stars. You follow the rhythm of his breath, feel the warmth of blankets around you, and experience the gentle pulse of the world slowing into rest. With each breath, your body grows heavier, your mind more relaxed, and your thoughts slower until you too drift into a calm, deep, and restorative sleep.